Pavan Bhavana Kumar Kalavana Pavaka Gyanagan Shasu Hridaga Vasai Rama Sarachapada Atulita Baladham Himmashala Badeham Tanujaran Krishna Yani Nama Graganyam Sakala Gunanadhan Vanaranam Adisham Raghupati Priya Bhaktam Bhaktajatam Pushpadi Kritavarisham Mashiki Kritarakshasam Ramayana Mahamalaratnam Vande Nilatmajam Anjana Nandanam Viram Janaki Shokanashanam Pisamakshananta Vande Lanka Ankaram Langa Sindho Salilam Salilam Ashokavahi Janakatmaja Adayatanim Dadahalanka Amamitam Pranjaliranjanayam Manojavam Marututulya Vegam Jitendriyam Budhimatam Varishtam Vatatmajam Vanarayutamukyam Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Anjaneya Matipatalanam Kanchanadra Kamani Avigraham Parijadu Talamula Vasanam Pavayami Pavamananandanam Yatra Yatra Raghunatha Kirtanam Tatra Tatra Katamastakanjalim Ashpavari Paripurna Lochanam Martinamat Rakshasantakam Bolo Bajranga Bali Hanumana Ki Jai. Well, I'd like to teach you a new one. This is a chant particularly to my guru, whose name is Neem Karoli Baba. Neem Karoli is a little village in India that has the highest murder rate anywhere in the world. It's unbelievable. That's where he chose to have a cave, and he lived in a cave there for 5 years and then again for 3 years. No one ever saw him. He came out at night. So Neem Karoli, that's it. So he became known as the Baba from Neem Karoli. So it goes Om Namo Guru Dev, which I think you've heard before. Neem Karoli Babaya, like Shivaya, right? Om Namah Shivaya, Babaya Namaha. And it just repeats over and over. I'll start and you join in whenever you want. Nim Karo Baba Om Namo Gurudev Nim Karo Baba these chants are invocations to the deepest place within us. It's not something outside of ourselves. There's certainly something other than our egos, but as far as our true nature goes, our soul, so to speak, there's nothing outside of that. There's only one soul, and we're all a part of that. All these names that we sing are different aspects of that one, like you're singing to your left foot or your right foot. Some days you like your left arm better than your right arm, so you sing to your right arm. Same thing. It's all part of one body, the body of our true being. Most of you probably don't know this, but my guru, Neem Karoli Baba, was very close with Swami Sivananda. He used to go to Sivananda Ashram in Rishikesh, and he probably met Sivananda long before there was an ashram. It was due to his urging that Swami Chittananda accepted the presidency of the Divine Life Society, which runs Sivananda Ashram. And Chittananda used to come and see Maharaji quite often. He also wrote about a miracle that happened in his presence with Maharaji. They came, a bunch of swamis came, and they went into the room with Maharaji and they started singing, and they brought a little bag of oranges, probably 6 or 7 oranges. This is from Swami Chittananda himself. And they put it down on the Maharaji's bed, on the tucket. And then there was a little basket, and the oranges were put in the basket. And they started singing, and all the time they were singing, Maharaji started passing out oranges to people. And other people were coming in, and maybe 30 or 40 oranges were passed out when they only brought about 6. And Swami Chittananda says, we don't know how he did that. So these things were always happening around Maharaji. He was what they call a siddha, a mahasiddha. These miracles would just fall off of him like bubbles all the time. And what we just sang, Sri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. I first heard this at Ananda Ashram in New York. Swami Satchitananda was there one day in 1969, spring. And I went there, and he was giving a lecture on the side of a hill. And so I sat there and listened to the lecture, and I'd been to his lectures before. At the end of his lecture, he would always go, Hari Om, like this, right? So the lecture was over, and I noticed there was this other Swami sitting next to him who looked very thin and very austere. But I didn't really take much notice of him. So Swami Satchitananda finished the lecture, and I was waiting for the Hari Om. I had my eyes closed, and instead I hear, Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Shri. And my whole body, it was like somebody plugged me into an electric socket. I just like this. And so I don't know what happened. You know, I never talked to anybody at that place. I didn't know anybody there. So I just left, and I never even thought about who that Swami was, right? So now, that was 69. 1972, I'm in the temple in India with Maharaji, and this temple up in the mountains. And I'm in the courtyard, and this taxi full of Swamis arrives, and they all kind of roll out like bowling balls down the road, right, and right into Maharaji's room. And all of a sudden I hear, Shri Ram Jai Ram, the same Shri Ram Jai Ram that I heard, which was the first time I ever heard that in 1969. So I said, who is that? Who's that? It was Swami Chittananda coming to see Maharaji. So I had heard, and he had been coming to see Maharaji for many years. So I had heard Sri Ram Jai Ram from Swami Chittananda first, but he had been singing it to Maharaji before I met him. And Sri Ram Jai Ram was Maharaj's mantra. Ram Nam was Maharaj's mantra. Yeah. And so now, yeah. And so I've been coming here, and it just, you think I'm a little dull? It never even occurred to me that there might be any karmic reason why I'm here, why I come here all the time. They knew each other. And not only that, guess where I go when I go to India, where I sing? Swami Central, Sivananda Ashram in Rishikesh. Swami Vimalananda, who was Swami Chittananda's attendant for his whole life, is now the president of the Divine Life Society, and he treats me like his little pet dog. And he's very kind to me, so he always invites me there to sing. And there I am singing in Swami Central with all these guys. It's crazy. Yeah. It's all grace. It all happens on another level. So let's take this time to hang out and have questions, and somebody will answer those questions. Rukmini. Where's Rukmini? I mean, actually, somebody will answer. And if you have a question, raise your hand, or anything you want to talk about. Somebody will abuse you. There's a
check.
Candidate for abuse right behind you.
There's a wireless mic. Great. Hey, Katie, how do you tell me a little bit about faith, how you, because I know about your senior movies and stuff, and you followed Ram Dass and then went to India, but certainly the miracles, but tell me a little bit how your faith, in trust in the universe that these happened over time. How did it develop for you? How do you develop faith?
Next question. There's a very interesting line in the Bible. What's his name? That's Saint Paul. He said, "By grace were I saved through faith." The mind can't conceive of what's not a thought. The emotions can't feel anything that's not a feeling, an emotional feeling. The body and the senses can't receive anything that's not a sense input. Faith and grace, they have nothing to do with the body, the mind, or the emotions. It's a blessing that comes to us due to a combination of our own good karmas, the work that we've already done in our life and in our lives before, if you believe in that, and the kindness of the saints who have realized what this is all about. And we've all, if we're interested in this nonsense at all, it's because we have a connection with some lineage at some time in our own past already. It's not an accident. There's no accidents. We're here because we've been connected to something, and in this life we're trying to reconnect again. It's a longing we feel to do that. Where does that longing come from? You didn't get it from watching TV as a kid. Otherwise, I'd have a hell of a lot more. What do I mean, kid? I would have a hell of a lot more right now. So those are blessings. It's all blessings. It's the nature of a true saint. They have no reason to be here except for the fact that we don't know who we are. So because of our suffering and our pain, these beings who have gone beyond any kind of personal self-interest remain around for our sake. It's called compassion. And so through the compassion of the saints, which is the quality of God itself, compassion, kindness, caring, through that presence of those beings who are once again no different than who we already are in our deepest being, not who we think we are. That's a whole other story or a million other stories. But who we really are, it's through those blessings and that grace and our own longing, which is the fruit of our own work on ourselves in the past. So those two meet, and then faith happens. Now, what does faith mean? Faith means that you believe something that you just absolutely can't fucking prove. There's no way you can prove it. Why do you believe it? Why do you think there's anything more to find in life? Stupid or smart. A lot of people would say you're stupid. But I think it's the opposite. So it's that longing inside of us that's pulling us inside to where it all is. And we follow that because there's a part of us that understands. It may not be this part of us, but it's a part of us that understands that's the way to go. And so we go as fast as we can, which is as fast as we can. It's not a race. Anybody? Somebody raise your hand, or are you just scratching? Scratching, okay. Hi.
Been meaning to ask you this question for years, but I've never gotten up the nerve to.
Next question.
Okay. I go to Bhakti Fest. I come here. I have a guru. I know the basis of all this is we're one, we're love, we're compassion, we enfold. And then I go home, and I'm on the periphery of a group that deals with abused animals. And I really have a hard time putting together we are one, we are compassion, with how do I go about treating the abusers. Now, I know what I want to do, but that would put me in jail. I'm stuck in this place that says you shouldn't do that, and I know I know I'm right, and I know that's my ego. And all of what I'm studying or learning or becoming is to get rid of the ego, to let the ego go.
Maybe.
I'm in a lot of conflict.
Who's going to get rid of the ego?
Oh,
The ego's not going to.
So how do I incorporate these abusers?
I got you. Ramana Maharshi said, if you ask the thief to be the policeman, there will be a lot of investigation, but no arrest will ever be made. So you're asking the thief to make everybody else obey the rules, whereas you're already a thief and you're not obeying the rules yourself. These things you're talking about, they're not things to be used to either beat yourself up with or beat other people up with, nor is it something that you're supposed to think about. These are things that you realize through practice. In the meantime, you try to get through life doing as little damage as possible to yourself and the people around you. Period. If you're treating abused animals and abusing people, what are you doing? First of all, every one of your own actions creates a karma in the first place. That's where you should be focused on the most. What is your motivation for your own actions? If it's anger, what are you going to create with anger? More hatred, more anger, more suffering. So, as that guy said, take the splinter out of your own eye first. Wow. Oh, it's Shivratri. Yeah, of course. I have to talk about Jesus. Take the splinter out of your own eye first, and then things will look different. And then you can operate on everybody else. So it's good that you see what you're caught in, but you're trying to figure it out. You're trying to like pick yourself up like this. You can't. There's no leverage. You have to quiet your mind, calm yourself down, and take responsibility for your actions. And knowing that thoughts are actions as well. They don't make as big a ripple in the karmic field as a physical action, but it's also a definite karma. This is a question everybody's asking me now. What do I do with that guy in the White House? How can I get through the day? If you know, somebody asked the Dalai Lama once, they said, Your Holiness, you talk about peace of mind. Do you have peace of mind? So he said, yes. He said, the Chinese tortured us. They took our country. They slaughtered my people. We had to escape with our lives, with nothing. Now we live in exile. He said, should I let them take my peace of mind as well? The only vote you get in life is how you go through the day. And we don't even have a vote yet. We haven't even registered to vote yet. We're not even old enough to register yet. Maybe we're not even born yet. And still we're worried about what we're going to do. Let's figure out that there is voting. Maybe we know that. We haven't registered. Then we could register to vote, and then we could vote on our actions, on how we treat ourselves and other people. Those people, you know, it's the same thing. I remember when there was that other guy in the White House that we thought was bad. Bush. Oh, I wish he was that. I want him again. He was so... Anyway, so obviously I didn't like him very much. So I was channel surfing one time, and I was passing through a news program. So I saw, it was a picture of it was a video. President Bush was walking down this hallway, and he was on the way to meet the widows of the first group of Iraqi veterans. There were about 25, 30 women in this room waiting to meet him. And he's Mr. President walking down the hall, yes, with his entourage and his agents, right? And he walks in this room, and he takes one look at these women, and he falls apart and cries like a baby. I was really pissed. I couldn't hate him anymore. How do you hate somebody, right? And you see, we're all the same. Do you think you're better than those people that abuse those animals? You're not. You're no different. You're the same person as they are. You have a slightly different, you were brought up a little bit differently by the effects of your own karmas. You were brought up in a slightly different culture by the effects of your own karmas. But you are no better than they are as a human being. You're exactly the same. You may know a little bit more about what's good to do and what's harmful to do, but you still have anger and shame and guilt and grief and selfishness just like the rest of us. So don't be riding such a big high horse. It's not worth it. You fall. It's too far to fall. So recognize that those people, just like Bush, were creating more and more suffering, not just for other people, but for themselves. You think they're not going to have to live through their own karmas? So, and we're not even going into who those animals were and they must have done to those people in a previous life to be switched like that. Karma is karma. Who knows? Nobody knows. They say only a fully enlightened Buddha or a fully enlightened being can understand all the ins and outs of karma. You're judging very harshly, but if you see the basis for your judgment of other people is really a lack of self-love. If you really loved yourself, everybody would be included in that. Regardless of what they do. You don't have to love what people do. You don't have to. It's not required. But you have to make space for who they are inside of that and recognize that they don't have a fucking clue. And everything they do is creating more and more karma for themselves and the people around them, and they don't know there's any other way to live. You might have some idea there's another way to live. Maybe. And if you do, you're very lucky. But most people in the world don't, and they just dig deeper and deeper holes for themselves every step of the way. Is that something to be happy about? So, uh-oh, he's back. You know, when I was in Auschwitz, I went there with Bernie Glassman, who's a Zen master, who's been here many times. In fact, I met Bernie here the night of the millennium. And we partied like it was 1932. So the reason we go to Auschwitz is to bear witness to the suffering for the souls that suffer there. To bear witness. So this is a very deep concept. But if you're bearing witness, when you witness something, you see it. You don't judge it, you don't analyze it. A witness just tells what happened, right? Like in court, supposedly, tells the truth, what happened. They don't analyze it, they don't see it's right or wrong, they just tell. So the idea is to go there and be with the suffering and the souls that are there or were there and suffered so terribly. So it was the fall, and the sun was shining, and the grass was green, and the trees were all multicolored, and it was so beautiful. It was golden light everywhere. And I looked up in the sun, and I said, "How dare you shine on this place? How dare you shine? What happened? You don't know what happened here? How dare you shine? How could you?" Every day, I would be screaming at the sun in my mind, you know. And I'm still trying to process all this incredible suffering, this horror. And I'm looking up at the sun, and finally, I got it. I said, "Oh, it's your nature to shine. You shine on the good, the bad, the up, the down. You shine equally on everything. That is bearing witness. That is unconditional love. That is reality. That's the nature of the sun. It doesn't check out to see who it's shining on. The weeds grow just as fast as the plants. It's very hard. And it didn't happen up here, it happened in here. It wasn't something I thought about. It was an understanding that came from inside. And another day, the reason I'm telling you this, because I was walking around and I realized, we heard, of course, about all the atrocities committed by the guards and all the people there. There were even rooms I couldn't even go into. I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't go in, you know. But I also realized that I was no different than those people. I was no better than those guards. If I had been born in Nazi Germany to a family of Nazis at that time and raised as a Nazi, why wouldn't I do what I thought was the right thing to do as a Nazi? I'm not some super hip liberal kid from Long Island. I'm a guy who was born in Germany that way. I would have been programmed that way. I'm no different than those people. I'm no better. However, I didn't have those karmas for whatever reason to be born in that situation. And that's also karma. That's also cause and effect. I didn't have to be subjected to that kind of horror and make more horror for myself and others. But I was no different. We're no different than other human beings. The same being is looking out of every eye in the universe, from a lizard to a human. Same being. That one being of which we are all a part. And all we do for most of our lives all day is find reasons to hate other people and to feel different and better than other people. It's just not true. Better is not what we are. We might have different understanding, which is a result of our own work on ourselves in the past. And the work that we're doing in this life to understand what is happiness, how do we live in this world in a good way. I'm not excusing anybody. I'm not excusing those guards. I'm not saying that they're not guilty of what they did. But I'm also saying I couldn't prove to myself that if I had been born in those circumstances that I would have done anything differently. Look, you ever see me drive around? Forget it. You don't want to be in a car with me. Get out of my mouth. Why is that guy? And if I had a gun, I would have shot 30 people by now. Luckily, they didn't give me a gun. So who am I? Am I so great? Am I so much better than everybody else? We're all in the same soup. It's called Earth, this world. So the only place that we get a vote about our behavior and what we do and how we feel is inside in this moment, right now. This is why we do practice. Practice pulls us out of the future and releases us from all the stuff in the past and gives us a chance to live in a good way that's not just totally reactive all the time. Getting one button pushed and then having this reaction, getting another button pushed and having this reaction. Practice over time is the only thing that will help us. And that comes from blessings, from grace. Grace is a really hard concept for us. We're born in a materialistic culture that doesn't believe in anything. So to start to understand that there are other things functioning in this world that can't be understood with the body, the mind, or the emotions, the thoughts and the emotions, is a very big thing. But you don't have to try to convince yourself of this stuff. You don't have to brainwash yourself. You have to realize it. Make it real within you because it's in there. You have to see what's inside of you. And you can do that. That's why you're here. Whatever story you told yourself about why you came here, that's why we're here. To find out what's real. To find that love that lives within us as who we really are. Next victim. Somebody in the back. Oh, okay, over here and then over there. If you don't agree with me, let me hear it. Let's have an argument. I love that. Speak up.
Hi.
Hi.
Can you tell us the story of how you first met Neem Karoli Baba and ended up over there?
I haven't ended up anywhere yet, as far as I could tell. Well, you know, I don't know. I could tell you what happened, but I can't tell you how it happened, which I'm sure you don't really care about the difference. So I was really depressed. I had a career ahead of me as the hippie bus driver, school bus driver in upstate New York. And so I was just, I had been doing a bunch of stuff. I'd been doing pranayama and asanas and trying to meditate, and I had joined Self-Realization Fellowship, I think just out of high school. I flew to California. Or maybe it was the next year. I can't remember. And but nothing was working, It was just horror. And I was living on a farm in upstate New York, and with these, the owners of the farm were these Jungian acid head mountain climbers. call them wild people doesn't begin. You can't imagine. Anyway, so one day they said this friend of theirs came up from New York, and he had heard Baba Ramdas had just come back from India, and he had given his first talk in New York City, and this guy had been there. And this guy was one of these friends of these people. So he came up and he said, you know, he's living up in New Hampshire, so let's go take a drive and see him. So they asked me if I wanted to go, and I said, nah, I don't care about any American yogis. Right. There's Donald Trump, right there. See? Who are you going to kill? So so I said, no, I'm not going to go. So they were supposed to be gone a couple of days, right? They were gone like 3 or 4 days. And I can still see there was a big field, and there was a road right down the middle through the field, right up to the house. And they drove an old beat-up Jaguar sedan, you know, British racing green. And I had just come out of the shed after milking our goats. We had 2 goats, Alice Bailey and Madame Blavatsky. And so I was standing there with the goat milk in the pail, and they drove up. And the guy gets out of the car, and he turns around, and he's like, and I just said, write down the directions, I'm leaving now. I got such a hit at that moment, I can't even describe. I lost my mind. I'm going, and I ran out to my cabin, I got my stuff together, and I drove off into the biggest snowstorm in the history of the world. And I was driving this old Volvo. The heater, it wouldn't work. It was so cold. I had to stop. I was drinking chocolate mochas every 20 minutes all the way just to make it. I drove all through the night. Like a 5-hour drive took 11 hours, 12 hours. So anyway, I got there, and I turned the engine off of the car, and there was total silence. It's beautiful. This estate in New Hampshire with a lake over there, and everything was covered with snow. And I turned the car off, and after like 12 hours, it was like, and right here, I felt a little like, bloop. Yeah, what was that? Am I having a heart attack? Where was that? That's weird. So then I walked up to the house, and I knocked on the door. And the door opens, and there's this guy with this shit-eating grin on his face. And he just looks at me, and he points up the steps. He goes, I kind of look around, and I think, uh-oh. I better get out of here fast. What's going on here? All right, I'll go. So I walked up the steps, and I turned, and then there was a little room, and Ram Dass was sitting there. He had his eyes closed. He was sitting there. There was no eye contact or anything. But the minute I walked into that room, I knew that whatever it was that I was looking for, and I didn't know what to call it, but whatever it was that I was looking for was real, it was in the world, and it could be found. Just like that. And that changed my life. That was a completely different moment. So we hung out for the afternoon, and he gave me this mantra. And then it was like evening, and he said, well, you can stay. We can have dinner and stay for the night if you want. But if you should decide now. So I said, well, I have to drive my school bus in the morning, so I better go. Okay. So I took off, and I drove about an hour, and I got really tired, right? So I'd driven all night. I hadn't slept. So I pulled off the road, and I had one of those little Baby Ben wind-up alarm clocks. You ever see them? They make them now, but they're digital. They're fake. So I put it up on the dashboard, and I set it for like an hour, right? And I just leaned back in the seat, and I fell asleep. The next thing I knew, I woke up like driving. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know what I was doing. And there, I'm in the car. I'm driving. I didn't know where I was going, where I was coming from. What is this? I just, And then I remembered something Ram Dass had told me. He said, whatever you decide to do, stay or go. Your mantra will protect you, he said. So I screamed that mantra at the top of my lungs all the way back to New York, right? But it was the most amazing. I had obviously woken up when the alarm went off. I turned it off. I started the car. I pulled out in traffic, just like I was actually awake. And then I don't even know how long it was down the road. Oh, my goodness gracious. So then, after that, I tried to hang out with Ram Dass as much as I could, because I really felt this tremendous something coming from him. And, because that feeling, that understanding stayed with me, that knowing stayed with me, that whatever it was I was looking for, this was real. Because at that point, listen, it's 1968. There's 3 books on this shit, right? And who knows? They're books, right? They could be anything. But this was something else. This was direct knowing. And so I hung out with him as much as I could. We went different places around the country, did retreats, and learned this and that. And we learned about Neem Karoli Baba. But we never heard his name. He never said his name, which I just splashed all over you. For years, we didn't know his name. Because when Ram Dass went back to America, was sent back to America, Maharaji said, don't talk about me. So, of course, all he did was talk about him. What could he do? He had nothing else to talk about. But he never said his name or where he could be found, right? So, after a couple of years of hanging out with him, I just decided I gotta go be with Maharaji. I want to meet Maharaji. So I told him, and he said, well, I can't tell you where to find him because I was told not to. So, but here, I have a friend who lives in the hills, an Indian guy who I'm very close with. He's an old devotee of Maharaji's. You write to him and see what happens. So he gave me this guy, K.K. Shah's address. So I wrote to KK. I said, I'm a student of Ram Dass's, and I would like to come see Maharaji. So I got a letter back. It took about 2 weeks, I think, or more, back and forth. I got a letter back saying, it's wonderful to hear from you, and blah, blah, blah. But at the moment, Maharaji's not here in the hills. And but when he returns, I will bring your letter to him, and then I will let you know what he says. I said, great, good, okay. So a couple of months later, maybe about a month later, I get a letter saying, hope all is well with you. I still have the letter. After some time, Maharaji arrived back at his temple in Kenchi. Oh, so there I got to, okay, in Kenchi. And after a few days, I went to see him. Then he says, he says, as you know, great saints like Maharaji do not encourage the devotees to come to them, but their doors are always open. So if you're here traveling in India, you can come and see him. Great. So we're on our way. Not exactly. Many years later, maybe 10 years later, KK said to me, did I ever tell you what really happened that day? I said, no. He said, well, by the time Maharaji came back, there were 3 letters. One was from Danny Goleman, and then Ramesh Radas, Jim Litton, and I. So I went to the temple to see him, and I went into the room where he was sitting, talking to some other people. I took your letters and I placed them next to him on the bed. And I sat down and began to peel an apple and cut it into small pieces to feed Maharaji. He had 3 teeth, so he used to get these soft apples and cut them in small pieces and go like this, and he would gum them. So I'm sitting there, this is KK talking, I'm sitting there feeding the apple to Maharaji, and he's talking to these people in the room, and he sees the letters on the bed, and he says, "What's that?" And I told him that they're letters from students of Ram Dass. They want to come see you. "Nay, tell them not to come. What do I have to do with this?" And he went back to his conversation. So at that point, KK began to pout, and he stopped feeding Maharaji the apple. And he just looked down like this. Now you see, it's a setup. Ram Dass was sent to KK's house, and KK was told, "Take care of Ram Dass, you're blah, blah, blah." So they became very close. KK grew up in Maharaji's lap from the time he was 8 years old. His relationship with Maharaji was like a spoiled brat. There was total love, but there was no distance or the great guru. They were like grandfather and grandson, right? If Maharaji said, "Stand up," KK sat down. If he said, "Go away," KK stayed. If he said, "Stay," KK ran away. This was a crazy love relationship, right? So at this point, KK, being KK, he begins to pout, right? And he looks down and he stops feeding Maharaji the apple. And KK told me Maharaji would push his head up like this and say, "KK, what's the matter?" And he would look away. He wouldn't even look at Maharaji. And then go like this again. Finally, Maharaji throws his hands up and says, "All right, tell him what you want." Now, being a good devotee, he's not going to lie, right? But what did he write? As you know, great saints do not encourage the devotees to come to them, but their doors are always open. Sounds different the second time, doesn't it? The whole thing's a setup. If it had been some other devotee, we would have got, Maharaji said, "Do not come." We would have been screwed. So while Maharaji said, "What do I have to do with this?" the big Maharaji was taking care of everything. There's two Maharajis. There's the Maharaji puppet, which is the physical body, like us, puppets. We're all puppets. And we're pulled around by our own bullshit. The Maharaji puppet is pulled around by the big Maharaji, who's God. So the little Maharaji says, "What do I have to do?" The big Maharaji said, "I'll let you know later." And he dragged us over and put us right there in his lap. That's the way it works. So when we first got there, before he even saw us, it turned out KK was there that day at the temple. KK has a job, but he was there that day at the temple. And before we were let in the room, Maharaji said, "Take them and feed them." And he says, "KK, they come from good families. They're good people and they come from good families." I don't know what he's talking about, but anyway. Then KK says, "Maharaji, I never bring bad people to you." So that's how we got there. And the weirdest feeling, I had the weirdest feeling. It was hard for me to fit Maharaji. Now remember, I've been thinking about him and looking at a little black and white picture for 2 years almost, right, at that point. And, he was everywhere. He was huge. Now I got in that room and I looked at this guy wrapped up in a blanket. I couldn't fit all of that in there. It was a really strange feeling I had when I first met him. It was wonderful. But at the same time, I realized that I already knew him. I already had him. He was already with me for the years before. But don't worry, that feeling went away soon enough. And I began to suffer just like everybody else. He was very playful, very playful. So, people say, "Oh, I want a guru, I want to meet my guru." Yeah, crazy. Give it up. It's the last thing you want. Because you get totally attached to that being. And then, when they disappear, then what do? You're fucked. Because there's nowhere you're ever going to find that except in there, and that's the last place you want to look. So just give it up. Be happy just as you are. Really. Tell you, it's overrated. Of course, I wouldn't change anything. Not one thing. Guru's inside, you know. And you have to understand, everybody has a guru. Everybody is a lineage. Everybody's connected to a being that is connected to the whole universe. Everybody has a door that they're going to go through at a certain point. That's not even a good way of putting it, but you have to have the understanding that these beings, everything they do, they only have one motivation. We have lots of motivations, right? We want shoes that fit right. We want clothes that look good. We want more hair or less hair. We want to be taller or shorter or skinnier or fatter. We got all kinds of motivations. They have no motivation other than compassion for us. Everything they do, everything that happens through them is based only on one thing: compassion for our suffering and our ignorance and our delusions, which is where we live, 24/7, 365. It's like a big paper bag that we're trying to break out of. And they see that very clearly, and they show us and help us break out of that paper bag. First, they show us that it's possible. So, why are you here if you don't believe somewhere in yourself that it is possible? You wouldn't be here. Whatever motivation you think you had to come here, it's based on the fact that there's something else, something deeper that you can find in life. And so if everything they do is compassion, then if they show themselves to you, that's compassion. If they don't, that's compassion too. We're all getting just what we need every moment of every day. We may not like it. Too bad. Get over it and get with the program. You have no option. Bitching and moaning ain't going to get you there, unless you really do it well. I do it pretty well. Guru, God, and self are not different. They're not separate things. They're all the same thing. Guru, God, and self. Self with a capital S. What's in there? Our true being. Our true being. Who we are. Underneath who we think we are. How do you get under those waves? The waves that are always coming, the waves of thought, the waves of emotional disturbance and negativity and all that stuff. Spiritual practice. There's just no other way. Period. So, you don't do it, guaranteed nothing's going to happen. You do it, maybe something will happen. You got to do it. In your own way, you have to find what works for you. You have to learn how to trust your own heart. What works for me? Not everything will be what works for you. And what works for you for a while may not work for you 2 years down the line. You have to pay attention to yourself. It's all happening inside of you. You take somebody else's word for something just so far. And that as far that distance is, you try to experience what they're talking about. If it works, good. If it doesn't, next. There's no shame in that. In fact, that's being responsible. Don't believe what people tell you. Try it out. If it feels good, fine. But nobody can give it to you. It's already who you are, who we are. If somebody says, come with me, I'll give it to you, run the other way as fast as you can. because those people are just going to manipulate you and take from you. People can show you something. They can turn the light on for a minute, but the light won't stay on until you turn it on. Next, who's picking? There was somebody way in back there first.
Hi. Were you brought up with a specific way to believe as a child, either in a religious group or a practice or a church?
Mickey Mouse. The Church of Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck. I was a believer. Actually, it was Mighty Mouse. That's how old I am. Mickey Mouse didn't even make it to TV yet. Andy's gang was my temple. Andy Devine was my Lord. Froggy was my avatar. No. Nobody in my family believed shit. Why would I believe anything? Nobody had any faith or any understanding in anything. We had one saint in the family, my Aunt Bella. You know why? She never complained. That was the qualification for sainthood in my family. No, nobody had anything. My parents were, they were brought up Jewish, but even their parents, my grandparents, didn't have anything going on. My great-grandparents even also were. They came from Russia, Poland in the 1890s and went to England for 10 years. They were cultural Jews. They did all this stuff. They fought over what they call the last part of the chicken that goes over the fence? The Pope's nose. That's my family. They fought over that. It was just horrible. So there was nothing going on. But they were good people. They cared about other people. They were good people. Relatively. As good as they can be, It was a tough time coming to America, trying to find a new life, make a living, and which is why half of my family were criminals. Good criminals. They didn't hurt anybody, as far as I know. But no, I wasn't brought up with to believe in anything. That's why it was so powerful when I walked into that room with Ram Dass. Because there is something real. I didn't know. Nobody told me. Nobody even hinted at it in my life before that. And even then, it didn't happen from the outside. It happened on the inside. He didn't do anything or say anything, but I felt what I recognized later was Maharaji at that moment. And who's Maharaji? Well, that's a good question. So I didn't have anything like that, but there I was reading books about Buddhism in high school. Probably peyote had something to do with that. Go ahead. And then we'll come back to you, okay?
Hello, yes. Since you're a famous icon around the world, and
Oh, yeah.
obviously
Yeah.
you've...
You should see me in my bathroom. I'm really famous in my bathroom.
I was wondering, it's a personal question or a corporate question, perhaps. How do you deal with money?
Money. I spend
money.
it.
No, seriously, investment, money, your take on it, obviously you've probably amassed a fortune.
Oh, yeah.
Do you give it out? Do you buy lavish things?
You can tell
Do you
by
have
the
a
quality
yacht?
of my T-shirt, right?
Yeah, do you have a yacht?
Very nice, very soft.
Yeah. No,
Very good.
but everyone in this room is interested in money because we all have jobs.
Of
and
course.
we all
I have a
need
job
to
too.
have to- yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you balance?
I'll tell you a story. So
how
I was
do you
in
balance money
with
your
life,
with
with reality. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I was in the jungle. Really, this is big time jungle in the middle of India. And I was with a Baba, a yogi who was at the time 163 years old. Swear it's true. He's now like, must be in his late 180s or something like that. So we're sitting there, and he used to sit around in a beach chair with a shmata on his head. He never seemed to do anything. But he'd been around since before Lincoln's time. You know, he remember, once he looked at us, he said, you remember when Lincoln was shot? Oh, no, you won't remember that. We read about it in the papers. And then he took his 12-year Ayurvedic course in Benares. He said, sometime in the 1890s, he couldn't remember, right? Really, this guy. So one time we're sitting, just hanging out. All you did was hang out. You didn't do anything. He just hung out. He'd been hanging out for like 160 years. Why should he change? So so he looked at me out of the blue. This is in the 80s, right? Early 80s, mid 80s. I was doing nothing, right? I was just, he looked at me and goes, you're going to be famous. So I figured this is my shot. And I said, and rich. And he laughed, and he came up to me really close, nose to nose. And he goes, famous. Does that answer your question? I do have a pot to piss in, but it's not a gold pot, I guarantee you, you know. No, I'm very blessed that my work in life is the same, very similar to my work on myself. I get to chant with people. People come, they spend their hard-earned cash to listen to me moan and groan. And then I can keep doing it. We don't have, on a personal level, we don't have a lot of money. People think we do because famous. But it was not to be. So, I don't really know what the issue is. You work, you make money, you try not to get totally lost in your daily life, and try to remember to do some practice and keep your head turned in the right direction. And you try to do as little harm to yourself and others that you can. So everything is the same as money. I don't really, you know, you want to be more specific about what you want? You asking? Wait, the mic, this is good. Let's fight. No, you don't want to fight. Okay, we won't fight.
I'm just interested, is there a Krishna Das Corporation? Do you contribute to charities?
Where's my corporation? My daughter's my corporation.
Okay, a charity where...
You don't think I paid for that?
Or you could guide us or tell us how we can, what we should do with our money.
What's that?
What we should do with our money, our holdings.
Give to me. Give, oh, very good. Give to, I will do very good things with it, I tell you, very good. Very good.
Your philosophy on money, if you've amassed any money, like what happens to it, what do you do with it, your personal investments.
Personal investments? Who do you think you're talking to? I'm a kirtanwala, for Christ's sake. My corporation is a corporation so that when one of you trips and falls at one of my concerts, I don't have to give you my house. That's all it is. It's an insurance thing so that, you know, there's nothing. We try to, you know, some of the money that comes to us, we have a foundation called the Kirtanwala Foundation. There's 42 cents in it. You know, when there's 44 cents, we'll give away 2. You know, it's like that. We try to support very simply some of the people that I've known almost my whole life who are doing great things, like this woman Zuleika, who goes to Old Delhi and she lives with the poorest of the poor people, and she teaches them how to dance and how to work with their bodies. These women who get nothing, who are like they're just the worst abused group that you can imagine. And she works with them and teaches them self-respect and things like that. So we send her a few bucks. We send this one a few bucks. But so you do whatever you can do with your money, you do to help further the goals that you believe in your life, whatever that is. When I first started singing, I was on the phone. It was before internet. And so in order to arrange a tour, I had be up in the middle of the night to talk to people on the other side of the world. And then you make a call, there's nobody home. So you wake up again at 3:30 in the morning, and there's nobody. Finally, you get somebody. And then by the time I was ready to go out on tour again, I was so exhausted I couldn't pick my head up. So somebody said to me, well, I can work, I can be your manager. I'll help you out. I said, good. So they did it, for like a year or two for free, and then someone else took over. And then we had so many invitations. We never advertise. We don't have a publicist or a PR person. I'm going on invitations. I could sing 3 times a day, every day of the year in a different place in the world from now until it's over, just by invitation. So how do we fulfill those? So finally Nina came on board, and she acts as my manager and assistant. She organizes everything. She takes care of whatever money comes in and makes sure I don't spend it all. She's that, and then Janaki takes care of my bills. And there's no nothing here. It's just not big bucks. This is like, if I don't sing, we sink. It's sing or swing, whatever it is. It's not sink or swim. It's sing or you're screwed, whatever it is. I don't know. So, but I got enough, I got enough. I can take care of myself. The people that work with me to help me do what I do, they can take care of themselves. It's a great thing. It's all Maharaji's blessings. He doesn't give me too much because he knows what happens. I know what happens. I've been there. I had too much money once. Next question. So it's good. It's good. And this is what I have to do to save my own ass. And it's also the thing that pays the bills. Isn't that incredible? I'm very lucky, because I know for most people, your day job is a little bit different. My day job is my life job. So I'm very lucky that way. I'm very blessed. And I'm very blessed that you all are silly enough to come here and let me do this. Really. So, but that's me. Not everybody has the same situation. So whatever situation you find yourself in, you do the best you can to live the best life you can. It's not wrong to have money. It's not wrong to have things. A lot of that comes out of self-loathing and self-hatred and feeling of not worthy of being happy. Hanuman is a very unusual being. There's a shloka, I'm going to have to find the shloka now, I've forgotten it, but in Sanskrit that says, not only does Hanuman give liberation, but on the way, he allows for all your healthy desires to be satisfied. This is very different than a renunciate situation. This is not a renunciate situation. You live in the world. You need to eat. But that doesn't mean you can't also feed people. You need to sleep. That doesn't mean you can't help people in a different way, find places to sleep. There's lots of things you can do in the world. But you do have to take care of yourself and eat and sleep and have a place to live. When we start getting, mostly greed comes from fear. We're afraid we won't have enough, so we start holding on to stuff, and then we start contracting, and more fear happens, and then the quality of our own lives suffers terribly. So all this everything is connected. We don't feel worthy, we don't feel that we deserve to be happy. So we don't allow things to come to us. We push things away. We don't take opportunities that arise. So one time I was in the jungle with this old Baba. And out of the blue, he looked at me and he made this face. It's like your grandmother going like, you did what? He made this face, he goes, you need to develop willpower. That's what he said to me. And I remember I thought, willpower? What do I need that for? And his face got worse, he said, and he did something, and he showed me what he was seeing in me, inside. He didn't say anything, but he showed me. He opened my mind up, and he showed me, and I saw myself a different way. I saw that I myself was putting chains around my feet, that I was crippling myself at every step, that I wasn't going after the things I myself wanted in life, out of whatever big bullshit reasons, you know, blah, 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 blah. It all came down to not feeling worthy and not feeling confident that I could get these things and being afraid of failing and being afraid of being judged and stuff like that. And that moment, when I saw through that moment led to this moment. That was when, you know, because I started chanting only for one reason, to save my ass. I'm up to here in water. I don't know about you, but I'm up to here. If I don't sing, okay. That's why I'm doing this, you know. I didn't charge anything for years and years. I just go down to Jiva Mukti on a Monday night and sing. Then I got invited to California. What am I going to do, walk? You know, I had 10 cents. What am I going to do, walk? No, well, we better charge something. So I got a ticket. Hey, wow, that was great. My first plane flight as a kirtanwala. And then I got invited to LA. Well, that's also a pretty long walk. So they charged, then I got a ticket. Then I started accepting invitations to other places. So it just was a natural thing. There was no plan. No plan at all. This is all unfolding, you know, by His grace. And I'm the only one that's slowing the thing down, you know. So don't slow your thing down, you know. Look at yourself and see where you're tripping yourself up, where you're not going after what you want. For whatever good reasons you might think you have, get rid of those good reasons. They're not so good. And this culture demands that we make money ourselves. In India, in the old days, you wanted to be a sadhu, even if you were a bogus sadhu, people fed you because you wore the clothes. You walked, you said, food came into your hands. Because the culture supported that in the good old days. Even today, to some degree, it happens. You know, people, devotees give to their guru's ashram, they buy rice and stuff. You know, it doesn't happen like that here. We don't have the cultural foundation for that. We don't have the cultural institutions outside of organized religion, which is not very much fun. So, okay? Okay. This gentleman here is dying. Please, give him the mic. I lost my watch. Where did I put my watch? I don't know what time it is. It's right there on the board. Huh? We only have 4 hours left. Okay. Where are we? Hi.
Okay. You asked earlier for a challenge, and I started
A little closer.
like
Thanks.
this.
Yeah.
Okay. You asked for a challenge, and I had listened to the question behind me.
I asked for a
A challenge?
challenge?
Remember you said, I invite.
Oh,
The way you said it was a disagreement.
I don't have a gun on me, so be gentle.
Okay.
Even my sword is at home, so don't.
First, an appreciation. About 2 years ago, I first heard your music, and that led to a chain reaction of events that completely changed my life for the better.
That's a nice T-shirt, by the way. Is that Eddie Bauer?
Oh, it is.
Mm,
It is,
thanks.
Eddie Bauer, yeah.
I'm going to go online right away and get
Yeah, okay. Works in the heat.
Yeah.
Anyway, my life has changed in dramatic ways, and that's a whole story of its own. So the question is, the woman behind me had asked essentially about taking direct action versus looking inward and doing the spiritual practice.
Yeah.
And I've run into that myself.
I don't know if that's what she asked exactly,
It's-
but I don't, there is no versus, you know. They're not
Okay.
two different things.
Well, that is my question,
Yeah.
because as I have begun to try to look inward and try to develop a spiritual practice, an interesting thing has happened, which is I have become a more passionate, compassionate person.
You ever hear of a Freudian slip?
Yeah, that's probably that too, actually.
That's good for you too? No
Probably-
problem
probably
there.
that too. Probably that
Money
too.
and sex, who can do without it? Go
Yeah.
ahead. Some people think they can.
And so the harshness of the world outside us is there.
Sure.
And it seems to me that direct action is often required, or I feel that need to take direct action. And we do need to in this world. If somebody came in here, a cruise ship drunkard, we would have to physically remove them.
Maybe. Probably.
And so how do we balance looking inward, developing a spiritual practice, with also going out in the world and making a difference in the world? That's my question.
It's really easy. You do the best. Don't take it away from him. He's going to...
Okay.
I didn't forget the word you used, challenge. No, it's really easy. You do the best you can. That's it. Now think about that. Just think about it for a second. You do the best you can. What would you like to, how would you modify that statement?
I guess what I'm hearing sometimes is don't take direct action.
You never heard it from me.
Okay, and that's where I got confused, because like she was saying, you know, these other people
Mm-hmm.
that are doing horrible things,
Mm-hmm.
and then what I'm hearing is, well, who are we to judge? And sometimes we have to judge.
No, you don't have to judge. Judging means you're seeing that person as evil or bad, and you're not seeing that that person, just like you, is a result of many different things in that person's life. Most people who abuse have been abused, right? Does that make them bad? It just makes them victims. Victims become victimizers. Not 100%, but to a large degree. Most of what we're taught about ourselves through our earlier life and our parents, we then absorb and we teach it to anybody around us. So people who abuse are often abusing out of their own pain. That doesn't excuse them. You wouldn't let them hurt somebody if you were there, but you wouldn't necessarily have to hate them to stop them. The not hating is the inner work. The preventing suffering on the outside is the outer result of that work. If you hate that person, you've created a whole drama for yourself. Who knows what you're going to do who knows, you might take that to excess and you might kill the person. And you know what they say in the East? They say if you kill somebody, you give that person the right to kill you for 100 lifetimes. Karma. You can't, when you start talking about these things, you can either say, okay, there's no such thing as karma. I'm just going to be a good person and do the best I can. That's fine. So find out what the best you can is. Is the best you can getting really pissed off and angry, and you go prevent somebody from slaughtering a sheep and go home and kick the dog because you're so pissed off? Or abuse, or get mad at your kids, or have a car accident, or do something stupid because you've lost your mind? There's nothing good about that. There's nothing righteous about that. So whatever you do, like the Dalai Lama said, am I going to let them take my peace of mind also? That's where that's your kingdom, where you have say, where you have the only vote to find a way to stay at ease within, regardless of what's going on outside. You know, one time Maharaji was in a room with somebody, with a group of people, and these two guys walked in, and they sat in the back, and Maharaji ignored them, right? So finally, one of the guys stood up and said, "Excuse me, Baba, but my friend here is in great difficulty." And Baba said, so Maharaji looks at the guy and said, "Why did you kill him?" The other guy. And he said, "Baba, I didn't kill him." "No, but you arranged it." "Why did you do that?" He said, "Baba, he was in my way." He said, "You didn't think about his family? Who will take care of his family? Who will take, you know, what have you done? What have you done?" He said, "Promise me you'll take care of his family and his children." And Baba, the guy, the murderer, said, "Okay." The judge, the story goes, I don't know how they know these things, but the story goes that the judge had already written the verdict as guilty. He got up in the middle of the night and changed it to not guilty, because that guy had agreed. He agreed that he had done wrong, and he also agreed to take, you know, in India, no one knows, there's a tremendous amount of the population, they don't know where their next meal is coming from. We have refrigerators full of shit that we throw out. They don't know. So many people. Less these days, but still. And this was 50 years ago or more. So where is this woman going to take care of her kids? How are they going to eat? Where are they going to live? What's going to happen to them? The only person who was taking care of them was just murdered by this guy. So Maharaji could have blown him up and said, you're a bad guy, you ought to be killed, get out of here. But no. And the other thing he said was, eventually you'll understand what you've done. So judging is one thing, acting is another thing, you know.
Great answer, thank you.
I got to tell you a funny story. You know, this is big time judging. This is a murderer. But Maharaji didn't judge anyone, but he knew everything. Okay? So there was this one guy who'd been a devotee for many, many years. And he was a big guy in the government, right? And he was a very righteous, honest guy. Now, as you know, the Indian government, up until very recently, lives on bribes. Bribes are a way that they get extra money. It's not really a bad thing. The heads of the departments will get these money from people who want services. They'll take a certain amount for themselves, and then they'll pass it down the line to the people who work under them. It's just been going on for years. But this one guy, he would never take a bribe, so everybody was very afraid of this guy, and very straight, honest, straightforward kind of guy. So one day he's sitting in a room. Now, when this guy was young, much young, long before he met Maharaji. I hope you'll appreciate this. Maybe I shouldn't tell you. Okay, I'll tell you. So, when this guy was young, he hurt his back. And he went to an Ayurvedic ashram somewhere, right? And he was getting treatments and everything. And he had this woman who was treating him every day, and they wound up having an affair. This is like 40 years before the time I'm talking about. And gradually his back got better. And he came back to his family and blah, blah, blah. Now 40 years have gone by. They're sitting in a room. And this guy recently had hurt his back again after many years. So he's sitting in the room with a bunch of devotees with Maharaji. And one by one, Maharaji sends all the other people away. And finally, it's just him and this guy. And he leans over really close to this guy, and he says, she's too old and her daughter's too young. Don't go back there. How is that that's too much. I thought, that's the secret teaching I just gave you. I hope you appreciate it. What does that show? He knew everything, right? He knew what had happened. He knew the guy hurt his back again. He knew he was thinking about going back to that place. And look how he chooses to tell you. It's such a filthy mouth, right? It's fantastic. She's too old and her daughter's too... What kind of a slime ball is my guru? The best. She's too old and her daughter's too young. Terrible. Her daughter was probably 40, by the way. All right, any more questions? Behind all this stuff, yeah, we'll get, is incredible love, you know? When you have this, when you sit deeply enough in yourself, not judging just means loving. And when you love someone, you love them as they are. You're not trying to change them. You're not going to love them only if they change. You already love them. This is the kind of love Maharaji has, these great beings have for us. They see us exactly the way we are. They see everything we've done, everything we've thought, everything we're going to do, and they still love us. It's inconceivable. You can't wrap your mind around it. You can only, at some point, if we're lucky, feel it just a little bit. It's called unconditional love. They don't love us because we're good, and that they don't pull that back from us if we do things that are harmful or hurtful. It's the way the sun shines on everything. Yeah.
I've been struggling with something since yesterday.
Only yesterday. I've been struggling things for 50 fucking years.
Right. This is just
You
one
must
of the
be a
struggles.
saint.
One of the struggles.
Okay.
So I'm in the airport yesterday with my wife, and we're sitting down, and I do a random act of kindness for someone,
Mm-hmm.
completely out of the blue. And so we're in the gate, and the guy I do the kind act for is telling his wife about what I did. And the wife is looking back and smiling and like, I can't believe this guy did this, and so on. So I start feeling good about the random act of kindness that I performed. But then I get really emotional, and I actually start crying. Because it felt so good to do this act of kindness for someone, and I felt, good about doing it. But then I started asking myself, why am I feeling so good about this? Almost as if it was my ego saying, you're such a good person, and you did such a great thing, and I'm struggling with that feeling of the ego saying to me, you're such a good guy.
God forbid we should feel good about ourselves for anything, eh? God,
No, but you understand what I mean? It's not something
No,
that
it
you should,
is. Yeah, why not? Why
puff
shouldn't
my
it be?
chest out. And that's obviously where I think it's coming from. It's coming from this place of...
Don't worry, you'll be punished. That makes you feel good? Okay, you'll be punished. Now you feel better? Good. You see? It's okay to feel good. Period. Doesn't matter why. You're allowed. You're allowed. And why shouldn't you feel good about something? And yeah, maybe you're not somebody who, maybe you're a serial killer and we don't know about it. So a random act of kindness is a big thing for you. You should feel good. It's amazing. It just changed your whole life. What's wrong with feeling okay about something? Yeah.
Because isn't there teachings that suggest that you should manage that range of emotions so that you ought not get angry and sad, but you ought not feel that...
Excuse me. We can't manage emotions. Are you kidding? When's the last time you managed a fucking emotion? We are managed by our emotions. We are tortured by our thoughts. Our bodies drag us around. We don't know what's going on here. Do some practice. Calm yourself down, and it's okay to feel all right sometimes. The ego is not a bad thing. It just happens to be not there at all, ever. So figure out what that's about. It's okay to feel good. This is your program's running. You're just not going to allow yourself to feel good no matter what you do. So you wound up feeling the usual bad, or just getting through the day without allowing the sun to shine. You're doing it to yourself. It's a program that's running. You've been taught how to do this by your life, and you're carrying on the tradition wonderfully. God bless you. May you be punished. If that makes you happy, some people really like that. God bless them.
Let's leave that for the bedroom.
Yeah. So, it's all ego. Everything is ego. The spiritual path is ego. Take the ego out of it. Where is there a path? Take the delusion that we are separate beings away, and where is there a path? Who's to go where? If you're the whole universe, where are you going to go? There's nowhere to go, nothing to do. You're already the whole thing. The ego is the delusion that we are separate from other people and the universe and ourselves, and we think we are separate, and so we act that way. So we have to apply the antidote to that, which is spiritual practice. And spiritual practice gradually creates an atmosphere that we can let go of our programs while they're running. We can see them, we can let go of them. You just saw a program. God forbid you should ever do anything good again. Duck. Go hide in the bathroom until that feeling of goodness passes. Don't let it happen again. It's not that unusual what you say. We all suffer from that same thing to varying degrees. It's not easy for us to feel good about ourselves. Really, it isn't. We've been trained not to. We've been trained not to feel good about ourselves. Literally trained. And we've got no training on how to feel good about ourselves. That it's even possible. So this is what spiritual practice is going to eliminate. The feelings that we're not enough, that we're not good, that we're not worthy of love. When you eliminate those programs, what's left is your true being, which is love, which is goodness, which is okay, as it is. We got a few minutes. Anybody? Somebody over here? No? Okay, good.
This will be quick, I think.
Oh, yeah.
I saw your
We
movie.
have a word for that. Yeah, go ahead. You what?
I saw the movie. Loved it.
yeah.
It was great.
Good,
And I had a question, because after watching the movie, I really
who
felt
was that about? Right? That's your question?
Well, no, it was more of the sadness of you losing the Maharaji,
Mm-hmm.
and then how, in the time that he's passed, have you evolved and, I guess, become that Maharaji yourself?
Oh, yeah,
And the way
yeah,
you
sure.
give, well, in the way that you give
You know,
to
there's
so
a bridge
many.
that goes to Brooklyn from Manhattan. I could sell you that bridge very cheaply. No, I'm just kidding. First of all, first, second, and third of all, a glowworm never can become the sun. A glowworm can just shine the best it can when it gets rid of all its programs, but the sun shines on everyone all the time. That's Maharaji. This is a glowworm, you know? It's maybe a nice glowworm, fairly decent. And then again, Maharaji lives within me as who I really am, and just as God lives within all of us as who we are. We're all working on the same stuff. And I survived after many years of self-torture by his grace, you know. There's no other explanation for it. Knowing me, I wouldn't have survived. But here I am. So it's by his grace only. And I have no, I can't explain that, but it's the only answer I can give you, you know. What's that? Is that song? Oh well, I forget. But there's this line, you know. There's a crack. Don't patch it up. That's how the light gets in. You know, wasn't that? Oh, Leonard, of course. Yeah, right. Leonard and God, you know, they know each other very well. So yeah, you know, a broken heart is kind of a prerequisite for this whole trip. But all our hearts are broken, you know. It goes with the territory. And we're just trying to find a way to patch it up, to heal that pain and suffering that we have for not knowing who we are, for not being able to experience the reality of who we are, which is love, which is truth, which is being. We spend all our days running around like crazy. So it's only practice and grace that's going to reveal what's really inside of us and who we really are. Okay? It was not through any effort of mine that I survived, okay? But yeah. But if I wasn't here, I couldn't sing to him, so I guess he wanted that. Otherwise, it wouldn't be. Okay, 2 o'clock. Time to go. So, see you later. Right? Namaste.